You are Barack Obama. 4 months into your retirement, you awake to find a letter with no return address on your bedside table. It reads, "I hope you've had a chance to relax, Barack. But pack your bags and call the number below. It's time to start the real job. Signed simply, JFK." First story by J. Ray Wang. A prank? Barack stared at the letter. If it was a prank, it was a darn good one. The signature was exquisite. Looping and elongated, a near mirror image of JFK's real signature. Well, if somebody went through this much effort for a simple joke, he might as well entertain them. He looked around to make sure neither his wife nor daughters were around. He walked into the living room just in case and dialed the number. It rang once and clicked. "Barack?" It was John's voice. For a second, Barack thought he was listening to old speeches played on fuzzy, warmly colored screens. "Who is this?" he asked. "I'm John F. Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States. The time to serve your nation is now." "No, you're not," Barack said. This was getting less and less funny with every word. It wasn't that funny to begin with. "Impersonating a president in any serious attempt is a grave offense. Look outside." The call cut. Barack peeled back the drapes and peeked through the blinds on a sunny May day. Standing at the end of his driveway, right outside the gate, was John F. Kennedy. A jet-black limo sat behind the man. He beckoned Barack and slipped back inside the tinted windows of his car. The 44th President of the United States gripped the cool brass doorknob. Already, sweat was accumulating on his hands and neck. This was dumb. He shouldn't go, he knew. But JFK had been a personal hero to him. It was under his leadership that humanity reached the moon. He stood up to Russia at the height of their power. He was a man Obama would have given anything to meet. And now, he had the chance. He opened the door and stepped into the sunlight. Secret Service agents watched him go. None tried to stop him. They wouldn't even meet his eyes. The front gate opened like curtains in a stage play, revealing the jet black of JFK's limousine. The car door swung open. Barack licked his arid lips and swallowed what little moisture he had in his mouth. He got in. The hum of the car was the only noise between the two presidents. Obama simply stared. JFK looked exactly like in the photos. The man hadn't aged. He tried scanning John's face for any misplaced flap of skin, any misdrawn shadow, anything to give away the mask. There were none. The car stopped, and suddenly the windows flickered to black. They had been TV screens, projecting fake streets and pedestrians. "Barack Obama," John said, turning to face him. From this up close, there was no mistaking who that voice belonged to. "Why did you get into this car?" Barack's eyes faded to the locked doors on either side of him, and then faced John directly. "You said it was time to serve my nation." Neither man blinked. At last, John spoke. "Well answered, Mr. President. But I'm afraid that was a lie." Obama's heart skipped. He clutched his leg, but refused to show weakness in the face of his captor. "It is not time to serve America, but humanity as a whole." "What do you mean?" "In 1961, I gave a speech called 'We Choose to Go to the Moon.' Are you familiar with it?" Barack nodded. Most historians claimed that was the moment that a moon landing was inevitable. With a few choice words, John had mobilized the unstoppable force of human will to reach a land that had always looked down upon them. I gave that speech for a very specific reason. Humanity needed to ascend, but not to a physical place. Initial probes of the moon had returned an element we are unfamiliar with. But this is the element that has kept me young. It grants me certain abilities that I have not shared with the world. So you did get shot. I also did die. Barack chewed on his lips. If this was still a prank, it was far more elaborate than anything he'd ever experienced. So, what is this element? One without a name, and soon it will be the only element worth mentioning. The Russians know it's there. The Chinese probably have some idea. Already there are factions within both countries, powerful enough to influence their space program. These factions are not in the best interests of humanity. So what is it that you want from me? You have proven your devotion to our nation through your 8 grueling years of presidency. Because of its secrecy, we cannot employ our strengths at full capacity. Rather, we must do so through single people willing to live and die for the protection of the human race. Like some sort of superhero? Not like. Barack Obama, there exists a game far greater than any petty foreign politics. The winner of this game will dictate the future of our race. If you decline my offer, I will drop you off back home and we will never speak again. But if you so choose to accept, you will have the crushing weight of the human race on your shoulders. You will have none of the gratitude or reward. It will be a path through hell itself. So ask not whether you wish to be a hero, but whether you can survive as one. Obama clenched his jaw. He had his wife and 2 daughters to think of. He had finally retired from the most stressful period in his life. But he had become the president, not to leave a legacy, but to fulfill his duty. He nodded. I accept. The doors of the car unlocked and automatically opened. There would be no turning back now. Second story by Dory_Lukey. Very funny, Michelle! Barack called into their new home, the letter in his hand. It's always been their tradition to outprank each other when they move to a new place. JFK, alive? Barack chuckled as he folded the letter and placed it in his pocket. Michelle has got to come out with better pranks. Barack closed the wooden door and walked into the hallway. Boxes of unopened stuff laid strewn across it. 8 years of presidency had bestowed him countless possessions. Michelle? Barack called out again, suddenly noticing the silence in the house. Just a few moments ago, he still heard the voices of Sasha and Malia giggling from the living room while their mother asked them about their dinner choices. Except for Barack's footsteps on the floor, the air hung still. Something did not feel right. Michelle? Sasha? Malia? Barack shouted this time, his voice mixed with a tinge of worry. This was not a prank that the girls usually play on him. His hand clutched the letter in his pocket. I am afraid that your wife and daughters are no longer in the house, a voice behind him suddenly said. Barack yelled as he swerved around. Standing between him and the door he just closed stood a figure whom he had only seen on books and television. Martin Luther King, Barack whispered, unable to believe what his eyes were seeing. He had seen his share of crazy things in his 8 years of presidency, but coming face to face with dead figures was something he never expected. Martin chuckled at Barack's response. Yes, that is correct. He extended his hand to Barack. And it is an honor to finally meet you, Mr. President. Barack took Martin's hand and shook it. He straightened himself, assuming the straight posture he was well known for. Being in the presence of legends required the courtesy, though he still struggled to hide the surprise in his face. "The pleasure is mine, Dr. King." "Forgive me, but I must ask." "Your family is safe with us, Barack. And yes, the letter in your pocket is indeed from President Kennedy." Martin interjected. "If I may, can you just walk me through what's going on here?" Barack gestured with his hands. He was feeling confused as well as slightly taken aback. Nothing prepared him for this. Martin sensed the unease that Barack felt. It was understandable. When Gandhi first appeared to him, he couldn't sleep for days. He placed a hand on Barack's shoulder. What he was about to say to Barack would be far worse than meeting dead people. "Barack, listen here. I'm here to tell you that in a few weeks' time, you will be assassinated." Barack flinched an eyebrow. "What?" Surely he was dreaming. The stress of the past 8 years must have finally got to him. The strength of Martin's hand on him, however, felt real. Martin gave Barack a sympathetic smile, just like how Gandhi had done so to him. "Yes, I am afraid so. This is just how things are supposed to work. Before you start your real job." "Don't I get a say in this?" Barack questioned. He had been looking forward to some time off after his presidency. Another job was just out of the question. He could only lose so much hair. Martin, however, shook his head. "Barack, I am sorry, but it would not be possible. My boss will not let it." "And who is your boss, if I may ask?" Martin Luther King smiled at the question, as if it was the question he had been waiting for Barack to ask since they first met. "His name is Jesus."